Hello and welcome everyone listening to and watching 2020 Coaching Convos with me, Julie Crabb. I am hosting conversations with guest coaches to talk about reflections from cases in their coaching practice. So hence the rather corny title, I think now, Case by Case. And we always uphold confidentiality in relation to our clients in these conversations. It's a really fundamental element of professional coaching practice and of our ethics and our values. So nothing of what you're going to hear will be attributable to any individual with whom we've worked. I always think that sounds a bit like a mortgage disclosure claim, but there we go. So there we are, case by case, and we're going to be exploring what we've learned. So this week, my guest is Wendy Tungate. Now, she's an executive and personal coach with a focus on life and career coaching. And she's got a really interesting background in teaching and mentoring. She has an MA in education and an ICF postgraduate certificate in business and personal coaching from a company called Barefoot Coaching. I think a number of people will have heard of that if you're a coaching bod. So welcome, Wendy Tungate of Wendy Tungate Coaching.
Thank you for having me, Julie.
It's lovely to see you again. Really lovely. So how are you doing today, Wendy?
I'm really well, thank you. I'd like it to be a little bit warmer, but we can go with that. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed on your LinkedIn page that you say you help people who are stuck
Yeah.
to find their way to a new reality. And that intrigued me. I thought that's a couple of questions right there. So, what kind of things are people who you work with stuck with?
Often, well, quite a few of the people that I've worked with have come because they've reached a point either in their career or in their life where they're not quite sure where to go next. Could be that they finished a big qualification, could be that they had goals that they've reached and now have gone, oh, and it could be that oh is, oh, now what do I do? Or, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be. And so often it's been a case of unpacking what it was that drove them to get to where they are, but then what they then want to do with that going forward. So, it could be building their own business, but now they've done it and it's not quite as lovely as they thought it would be. So maybe that's not where their future lies. But
Mm,
until you sort of invest so much time and energy into those things that you think that's where you have to be. And I mean, I'll go back to one of my own children, and this is no breach of confidentiality, but did this degree, discovered that actually the dream job that they thought it wasn't their dream job, and but felt that they couldn't come out of that because it was they'd done that degree and they'd done all that hard work. And I think sometimes we get trapped into those things without realizing there is a reality beyond that particular box.
mm,
And so I help people find, what's right for them and what could be a new reality for them and a new path.
mm. That's interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking, yes, isn't it often that we get our inner thinking about options can get constrained by the external parameters that are kind of around us? So this might be my concrete thinking, but because in some ways it seems a bit obvious that a change in career or change in direction is that new reality. But I guess I'm curious, are there some unusual new realities that people have discovered in coaching with you?
Um, I've had I've coached, having come from an education background, I've coached quite a few teachers, and there have been some who have realized actually they do love their job and they do love the teaching. It's just the environment that they're in, and they just move to a different environment. It might be a different role within the teaching, it might be a different school or college, it might be a different area of that. So I had somebody that went from primary education into adult education and support. And it was because the aspects of teaching in terms of helping people and supporting people and that sort of thing was what she loved. And the bureaucracy and everything else that comes with teaching these days was what she really didn't love.
Mm.
So, sometimes it's not always a new career that's needed, but it's looking at what are your options? What is it that lights your fire? Looking at what are your values? What do you love? What's going to make you happy? And I think we all get very bogged down in that need a job, need to earn some money. And we do. We all need a job and we all need to earn some money. But the costs to us of being in an environment that's the wrong environment for us in terms of our mental well-being, in terms of our health, physical health in some cases, is is quite high. So there is a balance to be had. And I think sometimes we forget that we need to balance those things out and find what is it that lights our fire and floats our boat.
Mm.
Mixed metaphors, but you know what I mean. And what is it that's actually causing us more and more angst? And so when I've been coaching teachers that have been considering leaving the profession, that's been the focus for most of them. It's like, okay, do I love teaching? It's just this is the wrong school.
Mm.
Do I love teaching? These are the wrong children. Do I not love teaching anymore? And it's, that sort of thing. But, working with people that have come out of teaching and have not been involved in teaching. Again, it's that finding your passion, because if you find your passion and your values and you can articulate them and sort of validate them to yourself, you can then start to see where those can fit into a new role and a new type of reality. Might be that you just need a new hobby or a new adventure outside of your work. It doesn't always have to come from your work, but it's
Mm.
getting the balance between the two.
Yes. Well, that's a very comprehensive answer. Thank you. I got slightly distracted there by thinking about the metaphor of boats on fire, which wasn't before me, but
Yeah,
yes,
sorry.
but I know what you mean. Okay, so Wendy, you completed your business and personal coaching qualification in 2022.
I did.
And from my own experience, and also from talking to other coaches, I know that often the story about how people have got into coaching happens long before they started their certification or qualification. So, can you tell us a bit of your backstory, please?
I can. So I was a primary school teacher for 20 years. And when I did my master's, I did it because I was looking for something else. I was looking for something to stimulate me, something different from my everyday. But at the time, I was also doing a lot of work with the student teachers and the new members of staff that were coming into school, and I was having that sort of mentor role within school. And as part of my master's, we did a module on coaching and mentoring. And first of all, I was like, now I see there is a very, very different thing going on here between the mentoring and the coaching. And although I often naturally took a coaching approach to my mentoring in terms of not giving answers and allowing people time to think for themselves, I also was aware that actually I was sharing my expertise and my experience, and that's a different thing. But it was that I suddenly discovered that it was that really made me excited. The idea that you could not teach people, but that you could help people to find their own way. And I think that was the very big difference for me in coaching. It was I'm not there to give you answers. And even when I was teaching 5-year-olds, my response to their questions would have been, I don't know, what do you think? So it was sort of a natural thing for me from that point of view. And I was like, no, this is what I want to do. So it sort of came from there.
Fantastic. Really interesting. Thank you. So, yeah, onto our case by case thinking today. And from chatting with you, Wendy, I know we're not going to be focusing on one case particularly, But more, what I've newly understood is a International Coaching Federation core competence of coaching, which is developing trust and safety.
Yeah.
So, where would you like to start in unpacking that core
Ooh,
competence?
where shall we go? Um, I think for me, when I was doing my training, it was something that I almost assumed. And as I've got on with my actual coaching and with coaching people, it's understanding the impact that that has for them because you can't do your best work and your best thinking if you don't feel safe.
Mm,
And so my as we chatted earlier on, I prefer coaching face to face because I feel as though it's a more open way of being. It's a, the clients can see that I'm not hiding anything. They're there in the same space as me. But it gives them then the security to feel that they can be open and honest and that there is no judgment. So that sense of trust and security is almost implicit because I'm there with them. I'm sharing their space and I'm sharing their adventure, if you like, and their thinking. And I think quite a lot of my clients have come to me and we've done the first bit and we've done the sort of the contracting and the setting our boundaries and our rules and all of that sort of thing. We've done all of that. And then I invite them to talk about where they're at and where they want to focus. And often there's sort of this sudden spilling of everything. And I sort of let them, it can come. And quite often in that process, I get, oh, I've never said that before. And that is often where we start the conversation because they've never said it before. Does that mean they've never thought it before? Does it mean it's been in there a long time and it's been taking up space in their head and now they're ready to unpack it? But once they've let it out of the box, they can then begin to understand what that statement means, whatever it is. And they can begin to work out whether it's something that's valuable, whether it's true, whether it's something that's going to help them to move forward, or whether it's something they need to actually discard because it's something that's holding them back. But they can only do all of those things if they're in an environment where they feel safe and where they trust that we are working together. So I think for me, that core competency underpins everything else that I do because yeah, I'm quite happy. I will coach outside. I'll go for a walk. People come to my house and I coach there. I'm fortunate to live in a house with great big windows that look out. So my clients often sit facing the window, which gives them that huge space to think that sometimes you don't have. And I feel like because they feel comfortable and they feel secure, the trust builds very quickly because I'm not hiding anything. I'm type 1 diabetic. Sometimes my phone beeps. I make no secret of that because, you know, it's the way of the world. So I think because I am open and honest, it makes them more likely to feel that they can be. So that trust builds that way and that security builds that way.
mm,
And then they're able to actually do the really deep thinking.
mm. So you've said a few things there I'd like to come back to if I may.
Absolutely.
Um, I mean, one of the things was about assuming, and I think you're right, that as coaches, we are so used to having conversations which quite quickly go into quite personal detail that there is a danger that we assume everybody is comfortable doing that, which is not the case, I know.
No.
And then also, when you were talking about safety, I thought, my goodness, does Wendy know about that as a model in terms of something like Maslow's hierarchy? That
I mean,
definitely.
having done teaching degree and a and then my MA, Maslow played quite a big role in my early education from that point of view. And yes, the idea that, this physiological safety and that bond is what starts that process of reaching self-actualization, if we're going to get into Maslow properly. But, it is so important that I don't think you can coach someone unless you have that relationship. And so I'm always very clear in my initial chemistry meetings. If I don't feel that that connection is there,
Mm,
then I will pass them to somebody else who I think is a better fit for them, or I will be honest and say, I'm not sure I'm the right person to help you,
mm,
because it's your professional judgment, but it's also your professional reputation. And if you are working with someone who you don't feel is right for you, who doesn't, I am always open and I am always curious as a coach, but that doesn't mean every shoe's going to fit. And I think that's something else that we need to be open and honest about in the coaching world if we're going to continue to cultivate trust and safety in our relationships.
mm. That's very true, actually. I think, particularly in the early days of a coaching business, where we might be seeking clients and quite keen to be everybody's panacea. Yeah, there's a danger there, isn't there, that we're not able to make that judgment. Just going back, Wendy, to the idea of trust,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that the notion of having nothing to hide and that being evident in the way that you behave, um, and also your honesty enables trust. What I know that trust is not something that for some people that comes very quickly. So, what else do you do as a coach that actively builds trust?
I think it's that keeping to what you say is really important for the clients. And, if you said you're going to be there at that time on that day, then obviously that is part of building that trust. Them understanding that what you discuss is your discussion between you and them, and it goes nowhere else. The confidentiality aspect allows them to understand that actually, yeah, you're not going around telling Uncle Tom Cobley and all whatever's going on in their life, because that's just not how it works. So I think having that, and I'd say, I think the fact that I have that I'm very open about me allows people to see that I'm not trying to push anything onto you that's not right for you. It's about you building that for yourself. And so I think all of those things allow people who might be a little bit skeptical or might be a little bit uncertain to trust me and to trust the process, because it is a process. It's not you know, one conversation fixes everything kind of thing.
Mm. So I have a question in my mind that might be a bit unfair, but I was thinking, putting aside the idea that the chemistry isn't there, and so that client is not for you. Let's assume that you have got that initial chemistry, but that the person struggles within the first few sessions to both trust you and trust the process. How do you, as a coach, empower that conversation?
It's a good question. I think I've had a couple of clients who have come to me, and the first 2 or 3 sessions has been going over the same things. And so I have openly asked them whether the process was working for them. Is there something different that they need from that process in order for them to move forward? Because I don't have all the answers, and I don't know if something's working for someone unless they tell me, or if it's not working for them, unless they tell me. You know, I'm I'm quite sort of physical. There's a lot of gesticulation, and sometimes I feel I need to sit on my hands, but actually, that's who I am. And if that makes someone else uncomfortable, then that would be something that perhaps is something that I can't do much about really, because my arms are going to wave around, I'm afraid. So I need to. So I think from that point of view, it's that communication is key. So if something is working for a client or not working for a client, they need to be able to say, actually, that's not working for me. Some and that sort of building that trust in that way where they feel that they can say that that's not working for me, and we can go, okay, well, shall we try something different? Um, I had recently one client who found in, uh, she was projecting forward 5 years to see what life might look like. And she found it very, very difficult to imagine that. It wasn't in her in her box to actually do that. And so I says, okay, I says, so we can try a different way of looking at this. What would you like it to look like rather than what can you see or what can you do? Because she wasn't able to do that sort of imagination aspect didn't work for her. And I think being able to move and adapt, barefoot call it dancing in the rain. So, which I think is a lovely expression, but it's that ability to take from the client where they are, understand what it is that they need, and adapt what you're doing to help them to move forward. Because you can't come to a session and go, right, I'm going to use this tool, and we're going to do this, because that's not going to work for them. And so, them understanding that the sessions are about them and what they need is what helps to build that trust, I think.
Mm. And as you were talking, I was thinking it takes a certain level of confidence to be able to say to a client, I need to know if things are working for you. Do give me the feedback as we're going along. What more or what else do you need? And also to be able to adapt should a particular approach not be working. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you were talking, it also put me in mind of something else that somebody suggested to me, that in coaching, almost both parties are teaching each other how to relate in the coaching context.
It's a
And
partnership.
mm,
I'm not the boss. It's a partnership. We work together. And I think that's the sort of one of the key points of the whole coaching things, and that perhaps people don't understand. And some people who come to coaching without any experience of coaching or without any background might assume it's a mentoring process. And actually until they understand that actually this isn't, we're a partnership, we're working together to get to where you feel is the right spot for you.
yes, wow. Wendy, as a person with many years of education experience and wisdom, um, I'm going to ask you to do something that would help people who are coaches in training or just coaches who are fascinated with the whole idea of developing trust and safety. And I wonder whether you could pull out 5 tips from the conversation we've had that you think would be key for somebody who
Um,
wants to focus on this core competence.
yeah, I mean, the first one I think is being open and honest from the beginning, and listening is obviously, I mean, listening is also one of the core competencies, but listening to what your client is saying so that they feel heard in those initial chemistry and contracting sessions, so that, if they say, I don't like doing metaphorical things, or I don't like doing imaginative things, I'm not very good with that, then you can say, okay, well, we'll use different tools, we won't use those tools. And I think having different tools in your toolbox then allows you to still help them and support them, but in different ways. So I think there's the listening is paramount, the openness and honesty, and being grateful for their openness and honesty, I think is a really important thing. People share quite deep and intimate thoughts in coaching sessions sometimes, and acknowledging their hard work and their thought processes, and that they have shared something that's deep and intimate, I think helps them to feel more secure, because they know that you realize that they have shared something that was deep and intimate to them.
Yeah.
How many is that? Is that three, four?
I think there's probably more than five there, actually.
I talk a lot. Coaching sessions are great because I have to go a little bit.
It's interesting because I'm doing my ACC credentialing at the moment, training for that, and appreciating was not something that I had actively been doing. And so it didn't come naturally to me initially. But hearing you talking about appreciating the hard work that the client puts in, when you do start to do that in a very purposeful way, it's yeah, it's a very important thing to do, actually, to recognize the effort that a coaching conversation takes, just that,
Yeah,
the thinking and the feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know, there's I sort of look back to my teaching days where someone would go, "Oh yes, thank you for that," and bustle along. And I used to think it was a very dismissive approach. Whereas I might be more inclined to say something like, that feels like there was a lot of work and a lot of thought went into that. I'm really grateful for the processes that you've gone through there, or I'm grateful for your efforts in that, or something along those lines, just so people know I appreciate that particular thing, not just some sort of general wishy-washy nonsense. I think it has to be specific. And I think, again, that's part of that cultivating the safety and the trust, is being quite specific about what it is, that they need and they want, but also about what it is that they've done.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we are running up to the edge of our time today, Wendy. And yeah, I want to appreciate you, actually. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with great clarity too, on Case by Case,
Thank
Series
you.
5 of 2020 Coaching Convos. But just before we go, I know that you're venturing into team coaching. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I am. So my husband runs a health and safety company that does big events and things like that, but often works with teams from other organizations. As part of his company, they have a training arm that delivers training to different organizations around the health and safety side of things. But actually, the well-being and the staff retention needs some focus in lots of these organizations. And so we're now building up to offer a facility for them to come to us for either one-to-one coaching if someone in their organization would benefit for that, or team coaching if a team is struggling to actually gel as a team. And I was doing some reading the other day about, take the American relay team, and they might have all the superstars in the world, but they don't work very well as a team and they can't pass the baton along. So actually, it's the team dynamics that are as important, and understanding how those team dynamics work and how you work together and how you communicate best and all of those things that are often left, especially when people are working remotely or on different sites or whatever. So yeah, it's something that we are building up and will be available, and we'll see how that goes. There's quite a few companies that have said they were quite interested at this point, so it'd be good.
Brilliant. Oh, wish you well with that.
Thank you.
Yes. And could you also tell us how, if anybody's interested in one-to-one coaching with you, or just to chat with you more about the things we've been discussing today, how would they reach you, Wendy?
They can reach me. I have my web page is wendytungatecoaching.com. I am on LinkedIn as Wendy Tungate. It's good to have a strange name because there's not very many of us. And I'm also on Insta at Wendy Tungate Coaching, and I'm on where else? I think that's probably enough. If people want to get in touch, my email is coaching@wendytungate.com. So they can drop me a line and we can arrange a chat anytime. I'm always happy to
Perfect.
chat.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I'll make sure that information's on the episode description too.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So thank you, Wendy Tungate of Wendy Tungate. Yes, it is a very individual name, coaching. And thank you to listeners and watchers. If you like what you see and hear, please subscribe and share and tell me what you want to hear more about in 2020 Coaching Convos with me, Julie Crabb.